For the last 7 years, Republicans have been united in standing up for Obamacare's victims. Remember, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. They kept saying it over and over again. But so far, Senate Republicans have not done their job in ending the Obamacare nightmare. They now have a chance, however, to hopefully fix what has been so badly broken for such a long time. And that is through replacement of a horrible disaster known as Obamacare.
That was President Trump today before his trip to West Virginia tonight, putting pressure on his own party to get a health care bill passed. The Senate will vote tomorrow, as we said, to advance a bill repealing Obamacare. However, it's not clear which version of the legislation will be on the floor. As you may know, little civics, Republicans need 51 votes to move forward, but appear short of that majority. We learned tonight, as we said, John McCain, who's been in Arizona after being diagnosed with brain cancer, will return to Washington tomorrow to vote on something called that motion to proceed. First step toward bringing up the real health care bill. His yes vote is critical. Joining us tonight, politics editor for The Root, Jason Johnson, back with us. And longtime libertarian radio talk show host Jim Sharpe is back with us from his home state, very germane place of Arizona. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Jason, in the break, I asked you the question I'm going to ask you right now. How does Mitch McConnell approach a lectern and microphones if, as people believe, this could be a suicide mission? How are you going to move the four, perhaps more, Republican defections, despite John McCain making this heroic journey back from Arizona?
They really have no chance. And this is a way to somewhat placate President Trump and at least look like you're busy. That's pretty much what they're doing at this point. They don't have the votes to even proceed to debate. And here's the thing, Brian, and this is what's also key. When Rand Paul and Susan Collins and Murkowski, when these first one or two people say no, that opens the floodgates for everyone else.
It makes it okay.
It makes it easy for everyone else to back out of this bill. So I don't see this moving forward. Mitch McConnell is wasting a lot of political capital on a bill that people still don't know what they're going to vote for.
And people like Susan Collins, as I don't need to remind you, they have moral authority. They have standing.
Exactly.
She is not a bomb thrower in the back row of the U.S. Senate. She is a prominent member of the Republican Party.
Right. These aren't backbenchers we're talking about here. And on top of that, they're not afraid of Donald Trump. They're not afraid. They're not Heller in Nevada. They're not on these marginal seats. These are people who outperform Trump in their own state. So he can threaten them, he can tweet them, he can say whatever he wants. They can vote their conscience, and their voters will have the back.
Jim, we were thinking about you, because I'm sure it's been an emotional time in your state, especially for Republicans who love John McCain and are wondering how this is going to play out. But B, your party, your political party, and Trump's choice of words. He rarely chooses words by accident or on a whim. There's usually a reason for everything. And today in his remarks, he more than once called the Republican Party they, third person, as if not to be a member.
Yeah, Brian, thanks. First off, is John McCain just a tough son of a gun or what?
Yeah, he is. I'm going to close the show
tomorrow
tonight with some of the best comparisons I've heard on how tough he is. So.
Yeah, and you know, even though I'm not a Republican, I worked during my political time primarily with GOP candidates. You know what? This kind of makes sense because Donald Trump is kind of a Johnny-come-lately Republican. He garnered a lot of his support from people who are really, truly populist, and I think he's hoping to draw on his base to get them to push Republicans, who, by the way, shouldn't be doing this to appease Donald Trump. They should be doing this to appease voters. They promised voters this for years and years and years. They said they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and now they don't seem to be able to do it. They did it in 2015. They took this same vote in 2015, but they did that knowing that that President Obama at the time was not going to sign this. So, you know, they need to do this for the voters. They need to do this because they promised they were going to do it, not because they need to appease Donald Trump.
Jason, this is another way that this presidency upends the rules. When you're trying to get something passed on the Hill, you go out on the road and you talk to the customers and you sell it to them. He has not taken that ownership. And listen to who's missing in our conversation. conversation, and we're guilty of this too often. We're not talking about the customers, the anxiety in states like Arizona. What's going to happen to our health care, our premiums availability?
You know, it was 2 years ago at this point, Obama has a town hall. He goes to Ohio. He answers questions. The #1 salesperson in this country right now should be Donald Trump. And he's failing. He's hiding up in the bleachers like two Muppets, just making fun of his own party rather than being out there shaking hands and making people feel safe and secure. He doesn't have to just sell this to the American public. He's got to go to those marginal senators and say, look, I'll have your back. If your governor, if John Kasich gets mad at you, Rob Portman, for helping to take away Medicare, I will go and campaign on your behalf. Instead, he's throwing tomatoes from the sidelines. That's not how you run this government. And I completely agree with your other guest. The Republican Party, they owe this to their base. The American people may not like whatever it is they're doing right now, but this is a pledge. And the fact that after 7 years, they still don't have a plan, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to how democracy is supposed to operate.
Jim, what if the president turned, this is just crazy pie in the sky thinking, what if the president turned to the governors of, just to name a couple, Colorado, Ohio, and Tennessee, and said, you three level-headed governors, put your heads together, and the Senate has promised me that we're going to coalesce around what you, where the rubber meets the road, you think are the health care challenges, and we're going to try to do the best for your folks?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know how that would go, to be honest with you. He might want to consider talking to our governor. We've seen the worst of what Obamacare has to offer. It's unfortunate, we've seen huge premium increases.
Yeah.
We're going to have only one choice in each one of the Obamacare exchanges in all of our counties this coming year, and we're going to see another increase, even though we saw a 116% increase previously. So I think it's a great idea, especially because Medicaid happens to be a big sticking point on this, and that's distributed at the state level. So I think it makes a lot of sense for him to bring governors in. I just don't think, as much as his base likes to think he does, I just don't think he's very good at working with a lot of other people, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there is that. Hey, Jim, how can our viewers hear you on the web?
We're available at ktar.com, and they can listen on the good old FM dial, 92.3. I'm on from 5 to 9 a.m. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jason. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Another break for us. We're back with a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee.